You don't need me to tell you that working with kids can be challenging at times. Whether you drive a bus or assist a teacher or work in the principal's office, there's always something. And it's always something different. Different kids, different challenges. Speaking of being different, you've probably heard of autism before. You may know a bit about autism. You may have a child with autism in your school. The purpose of this program is to help you understand autism better. And by the way, this just might help make your day a little less challenging, a little simpler, maybe even more fun. As a school counselor for many years, I've seen firsthand the many challenges that our students face. Autism is a particular challenge that has received quite a bit of attention in recent years. The latest research tells us autism affects about 1 in every 110 kids. Scientists are looking at different possible causes, and they haven't yet found a cure.
I
want to go to 180, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, bud. We're going to be in 165. Can we work for 180?
Yes.
Okay, we can work for 180 in a little bit, okay? Here.
What we do know is that there are creative ways to work with kids with autism, ways to help them have a positive experience at school and help you with your job. Kids with autism behave differently from other kids. Their social skills, communication skills, and learning skills are different. Autism is called a spectrum disorder, meaning that there is a range of characteristics. For example, there's a mild form of autism called Asperger's disorder. Kids with Asperger's are really smart, interesting kids. Interesting and interested. They can have a passionate interest and hobby.
This is what? 1
Foot.
Excellent. Fantastic.
But they often have a hard time in social situations, picking up on other people's body language, facial expressions, or tone of voice. They don't connect with other people very well. So making and keeping friends can be hard for kids with this mild form of autism. Autism looks different in different kids. Autism can be mild, like Asperger's, or profound, and then it's something very different. But here's the most important point. Whatever the degree of autism, these kids have feelings and want to learn and grow like all other kids. And how you work with them can make all the difference for them and for you. Children with autism tend to have a hard time interacting with others. They're often unsure of themselves in social situations. Kids with autism have a hard time understanding their own or other people's feelings. Sometimes they can't see or grasp another person's point of view. Eye contact can be hard for them, so they may seem like they're off in their own world. Kids with autism have a wide range of communication abilities. Some children with autism may not always know how to use their words to share their thoughts.
Do you need 5 minutes of a break?
Woo! Woo!
Some kids may repeat words or sentences without seeming to know what they're really saying. Others are very verbal, but you'll hear a difference in the way they speak. They may answer a question by repeating the question. They may say you when they really mean I. And some kids with autism may not talk at all. Instead of using words, they may use other ways of communicating, such as grunting, pointing, or repeating phrases.
Whip.
This duck is wet. Very good, Eli.
Rigid behavior is one thing you see in many kids with autism. They like routine and order. They don't like change and can get very stuck in their ways. They can get very attached to certain toys and objects. They also like repetition. They may move their hands a certain way or rock in a chair. They can also be more or less sensitive to any of the 5 senses, like light, sound, or touch, than other children. But remember, it's not by choice. It's just the way they are. Sometimes, if a student has autism, the school or parent will let you know, and that's always helpful. But every now and then, a child is not diagnosed. So, if you see a child behaving in any of the ways we've talked about, try not to make an assumption of a diagnosis. Be patient. Kids with autism are children first. They all want to have friends, do well in school, and have a good day, and have a good life. And as someone who works with kids, you're part of helping students with autism be their best. Kids with autism can and do learn, just like other kids. They have potential, lots of it. And by being patient and creative, you can help them reach their full potential.
Jessica and Ann have worked with students with autism for a number of years. In the next few minutes, they will share some helpful tips and key ways to encourage, engage, and support students with autism in the classroom.
No two students are the same at all with autism. Some students will have no communication, and other students will be able to hold sentences, write paragraphs, type, read everything that you put in front of them.
You have to take the time out to think, to process, because these children are puzzles in every way, shape, and form. Each one of them is different, and you need to take the time out to see how everything matches together.
To get to know the students, really, I personally wait them out and watch them, observe them in their environment. I maybe start by playing a game with them and doing different things that are just kind of leisurely and seeing how they react. But just really getting to know them as people, not just as students or students with autism, getting to know them as a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old.
One main thing that I like to do when I'm first working with a student is that I always make sure to observe before I dive in. It's incredibly difficult, actually, to work with a child and try and figure out the child at the same time.
Observing is a really important factor when working with students with autism because there's so many things going on with them. Some of them may be highly sensitive to sounds and start having an inappropriate behavior based on a sound that they hear that you don't hear. Eli, do you want headphones or speakers? Speakers? Turn it up. Over here. Seeing the world as they see it is a huge help to really being able to teach them, because then you know what it is that they're experiencing at the moment. And sometimes you can't understand exactly what it is that they're seeing or hearing or doing, but trying it and trying to understand them is really very helpful.
It's incredibly important to put yourself in the child's shoes. What you want to do is see it from their level and see it from their point of view, see all of the different things that may be affecting them and making things difficult for them. Instead of saying don't sit on the floor, you want to say sit in your chair. You want to tell them exactly what it is that you want them to do and not to do what they're currently doing. You want to make it clear to them exactly what it is that you are hoping to see from them. If you have a student that is having a difficult moment or a challenging moment, there are a few main things that you really want to make sure to do in that period of time. One of them is knowing when to shut up, basically, because you will very likely make the situation worse if you just add a lot of noise and a lot of different demands. They don't want to hear you at that moment, and you're not listening to what they're saying about what it is that they're angry about. So one of the things that we do very often is instead of saying it to the child, we might just simply write it down and then we just show it to them. And we'll say, don't say anything. You know that they heard you. It's very effective to simply move them outside of the situation. And you can have a much more effective conversation when you don't have lots of other eyes looking at you.
Stepping in a least intrusive way really gives the student the most say, the most power over the situation. You have to know that the student, in the long run, when the student is not 11 but 20 or 30, is going to need to be independent. They need to be able to express themselves in an appropriate way. This is $5. Can I have $5?
3, 4, 5.
Great again. Here you go. You have $5.
You want to make sure that you give them a significant amount of praise for all of the appropriate behaviors, and you praise for things that for other students you may never think to praise for them sitting in their chair. But for a child with autism, chances are they are consciously making an effort to sit in their chair that entire time. And it's important to recognize that. It's important to celebrate that victory. Good job. Way to find it. High five. Excellent work. All right. You need to train yourself to to look for the positives. There are positives everywhere, and it is incredibly important that you focus on them and that you celebrate every single victory. If you have a child who has a difficult moment in the morning or at any point in the day, but they are able to get themselves back on track, that is a victory. That is absolutely a victory that needs to be celebrated by you and by the student. There's victories in everything. If they do one step of 5 steps without you having to tell them what it is, huge victory that should be celebrated and pointed out to them.
You earned computer in 180. All right, you're doing an awesome job, Eli.
Making sure that you have a positive outlook on everything is incredibly important. A negative tone of voice will never help anything.
If you smile and you say your direction with a smile or just in a really calm manner, then the reaction back to you generally is a lot more positive. They'll smile back, you'll get a lot of laughs, saying, okay, we're going to do a lot of work today and then we're going to play a game. That really goes a long way because then there's something to look forward to for both of you.
When I first started, my attitude was that I had the endurance to, go the whole day without ever having to take a break, and, I can help this child with everything, and that didn't last very long because it's not true. You should start every day the same way, and that you should enjoy your job. Absolutely. I love my job. I come to work every day excited to see what the day brings. But a positive attitude is incredibly important. A perfectionist attitude is not going to help anything because things aren't going to be perfect. But I think that's what makes this job so fantastic and so different from anything else.
Teaching students with autism gives me a greater sense of what I'm capable of and of what I can give them to make them more capable of doing things.
Rail the queen.
Good job.
14.